All right, so we're live.
America, welcome to Power to Thrive. I'm Dale, sitting here with Cliff. We got a good topic for you today. In case whatever it is you're doing right now, this particular time, pause for a minute, hit the subscribe button, and join us. And one other thing, America, don't sleep on us, because don't nothing come to a sleeper but a dream. So today we're just going to jump into this topic, Cliff, and let's go.
Well, we got a hot button topic today. Today we're going to talk about the pandemic. During the pandemic, people didn't do their research. They didn't know how to do their research. And to be fair, they were suppressing information so that people couldn't do their research. It was very difficult to get proper information during the pandemic because the federal government put out information that turned out to be completely false. How this played out was that during the beginning of the pandemic, the Alpha and Delta versions were actually quite fatal. There was 1% fatalities in the entire population, and that's a lot. That was millions of people. And so during the initial phases, certain people were propagating the idea that the coronavirus was a hoax and all this nonsense. You had a lot of, especially in the conservative, the right wing, you had a lot of people that thought coronavirus was a hoax. Because of that, they didn't take any precautions and they didn't do social distancing or anything else. So a lot of them ended up getting coronavirus. A lot of these people were sitting in the hospital, a ventilator tube stuck down their throat in just horrible condition. And they were still sticking to their story on their deathbed, saying that coronavirus was a hoax. This is how deep this runs. By the same token, you had the other group of people, primarily liberals, that listened to everything the pharmaceutical companies were saying about the vaccines. Now we know the truth. Most of what they were saying about the vaccines and the way they were promoting the vaccines was a fraud. The vaccines didn't do what they said they were going to do. They promoted the idea that the vaccines would prevent the spread of coronavirus. Now, the truth was the vaccines did not thwart the spread of coronavirus, and that the vaccine companies and the government were telling a bull-faced lie that it was our duty to take the vaccine to stop the spread of coronavirus. The people at the top of the pharmaceutical companies knew full well that they had never run that testing.
Clifford, real quick.
It's ridiculous.
You're talking about the government. Who exactly is the government?
So in this case, this was largely led by Fauci. Now we know that this man's a criminal. This isn't some kind of politically biased statement. This is not a liberal-leaning statement or a conservative-leaning statement, because I'm neither. I just look at the facts. I could care less what conservatives say and what liberals say. All that is tribalism, and I go off the facts, and I'm happy one day to do something that would be interpreted as liberal and turn around the next day and support something that would be interpreted as conservative. I really don't care. So I'm not trying to appeal to anybody. I just want the truth. Basically, through the revolving door policy of the federal government, you got a lot of these people from the pharmaceutical companies that are in the federal government, causing the CDC and the NIH to do their bidding. So the vaccine companies identified coronavirus as a multi-billion or trillion-dollar money-making enterprise that they can engage in. So they wanted to go and have these vaccines accepted, and they wanted the federal government to promote these vaccines so that they can cash in. It's one of the biggest cash cows that the pharmaceutical industry has ever had. How a revolving door policy works is that executives from the pharmaceutical industry go into government and take up government positions, and then they promote the interest of the pharmaceutical companies while they're in government. Then, after their term in government is done, they go back to the pharmaceutical companies. That's why they call it revolving door, because they go back and forth and back and forth. Meanwhile, the pharmaceutical companies are getting their bidding done.
So listen, when they announced the COVID, right, they said, COVID is spreading, hurry up and take the shot, you could possibly die, whatever the case may be.
Right.
And so people went into panic mode, of course, and everybody just was taking shots.
I even took one.
Okay, there you go. I never did. I never even, thank the good Lord,
Good for you.
I never got the COVID at all, and I never took the shot.
I took one, but I was leery, rightfully so, now that everything is coming out. I wouldn't take the mRNA vaccine because the mRNA was unproven technology. that had never had widespread testing. The blowback from that is going to go on for years and years because there were side effects to that technology and they're still trying to cover it up. These are dirty companies. I went and took one of the conventional Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and the reason why is because I was watching refrigerator trucks full of dead bodies in New York, whole nursing homes where the people in them died in Washington State, and it was horrific. I had to travel during that time period, and so I said, okay, what are the downsides of taking the vaccines? And at the time with Delta, the downside was pretty heavy. It could kill you. Now, one of the biggest things that they did where they betrayed the general public was that during a very short period of time, the Omicron variant of coronavirus overtook the Delta variant. And within just a relatively few number of months, Delta had been completely eradicated by the Omicron variant. The difference between Delta and Omicron was that Delta was deadly and Omicron was far less deadly than the flu. When the transition between Delta and Omicron occurred, instead of the government and the vaccine companies informing the population of what the difference between the two was, these people kept promoting the vaccines as if Delta was still the variant that was widespread, even when there was no Delta. They didn't bother to tell everybody that Omicron was relatively harmless and that coronavirus was over for all practical purposes. They still have people running around taking vaccine boosters. They've been playing the United States population for billions of dollars. Few people are talking about this. I'm talking about it now, and we run the risk of having this episode banned. These are multi-billion-dollar companies putting one over on the general public. There's no reason to be taking boosters at this point. If you had some kind of really weird special medical condition, there may be like some fringe case. So I'm not going to say it's a 0%, but 90+% of the people have no business taking a coronavirus booster at this point. It's insanity. The downsides of taking a booster far exceed any benefit you could possibly get. And they've known this for years, and they still keep pushing this. This is an example on both the political sides, liberal side and conservative side. They buy into the narrative of their tribe, and then rational thought just goes out the window. Even on their deathbed, people just buy into the party line, whatever that is. That's going to cause problems for the entire United States population moving forward, because we're coming into a lot of serious things that are going to require people to be able to have rational thought and make decisions. And at this point, you got a huge amount of the general public that's incapable of looking at facts and making any kind of rational decision.
America, we're getting ready to close out for the night. I hope everyone enjoyed us. And keep in mind, you get these actual factuals. And when you say that word, just break it down. You're getting transparency, the whole nine here. Hit that subscribe button. Come and join us. Y'all have a good night.
All right.